So I'm pausing, taking a long time to do this intro because for now the third or fourth time in a row, I have nothing prepared. I feel like maybe your lack of preparedness is rubbing off on me. I'm sorry.
Only one of it. We have to coordinate. The only one of us could.
Yeah.
do that.
Well, I'm starting to think maybe the roles are switching a bit. I feel like maybe you have a bit more prepared than me doing this. You know what's crazy is that for some people this is going to be a surprise. This is just out of nowhere. We just dropped season.
Yes.
I don't even know what season we're on. 7?
It's a 9?
We're on season 7. Is it 7?
It's a good question.
I think it's season 7. I think we're dropping season 7 today.
Yeah.
I remember apparently this was a big deal when Rick and Morty dropped season 3. Like they didn't tell anybody. All of a sudden, season 3 just showed up, and so whether it be from a lack of preparation or a brilliant marketing scheme that we're doing, we're dropping season 7. Boom, right into it. Season 7, and here we are. So yes, that was. I'm not going to say it was the worst intro we've ever done, but perhaps one of the worst intros that we've ever done. So,
well, I mean, we're not done yet, so it could redeem itself.
Exactly. Hello and welcome everybody to the ETC podcast, season 7 premiere episode 55 of the ETC podcast, your one-stop pod for entertainment, technology, and cars, and all things random. My name is Casey Lee, and sitting across the city from me, as always, is
Aaron Zanenkar.
Now that was quite the stark contrast. My actual delivery of the intro was nice and enthusiastic and a lot of energy compared to that intro. But I will say what I've done for this episode for our it's no longer a glorious return, because I feel like season 6 was a 12-year hiatus or something like that. Or no, not 12 year. I can't remember what we said it was, like 8 years or something like that. 8-year hiatus, glorious return.
How many weeks was this? This was like 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like that. Our last episode, 54, was December 2nd. So, 7 weeks, maybe 8 weeks or something like that. So although it's not a glorious return, I will say it is still a hopefully celebrated return among our fans because, we get back into it. And then we stop, and there was not a ton of talk as to when we were going to come back. And who knows? We could have just let it go,
Yep. Another 8 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like when we stopped in 2012, we were like, you know what, we're going to break forever now. I think it organically just kind of petered off.
Yeah.
But you know what? We are better this time. We're older and wiser. I think that's literally what I said on the premiere of season 6, actually. But we're wiser enough to actually give our fans what they want again. Last time we got together with our friends, Deanna popped the question in terms of like, hey, what's going on with the podcast, guys? And that put a little bit of gear in. So here is a brief preview of what you guys can expect in season 7. No, we don't.
That would be amazing, right? Like the Top Gear style.
Yeah, exactly. We actually recorded all these episodes and then we jump right into it. No. The only thing we know that we have planned is associated with Deanna, which is the environmental episode. So there is going to be an environmental episode as part of season 7.
Did we confirm when Earth Day is?
We did not. I do believe it's not in March, even though I thought it was in March, because there's Earth Hour. Earth Hour happens in March. Earth Day apparently is April 20 around the world on April 22nd. Okay. So what did we do? Last season we did 14 episodes or something like that. And it lasted like September to December? It was like 4 months or something like that.
Yeah.
So theoretically, if we have the energy to do a full stack season again, full fat season, we will make it to Earth Day. But I promise this, if we do not make it to Earth Day, then for sure we will have an environmental episode like squeezed into season 7.
Yes.
Mark my
we're
words.
We're committing to that by Earth Day.
Yes.
Before Earth Day, we will have.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. What would be funny is if we went on like more than April 22nd, and we completely forgot to do it. So, but yes, I mean, as you can tell by the premiere of this episode, we don't have a lot of content as it is. So we need something. So we got to do Earth Day. We gotta fill it with something, right?
Yeah.
You sound like you have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about.
I don't know if I have a whole bunch of stuff, but
you have stuff.
I feel like we have to get back into the swing of things. So,
Yes.
Maybe we'll start with. It's been ages since the last episode. Six
Yes.
6 weeks.
6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks. Yeah.
What were the E and the T and the C? What were some highlights for you in that hiatus? Maybe we'll start there.
I mean, I kind of want to highlight, things that we maybe just one thing that we talked about a lot during season 6, and it actually happened during our hiatus between season 6 and season. I don't know why I said hiatus so weird there, which is we both finally saw Tenet.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so again, regular listeners, obviously, you know that me and Aaron have been talking about Tenet for a long time. We love the trailer that came out right before Star Wars, and there's a lot of hype around it. And then there was a lot of news about it because Christopher Nolan wanted it in theaters, and there's this whole thing about whether you should go to the theater or not. I have since found out that we have some friends that went to see it in the theaters, but COVID practice. Like, I have one friend. Again, I don't know if he's comfortable with me telling people that he went to the theater, but he did. He was socially responsible. He sat in his car and waited till he found a theater that nobody was going to, and he went to it by himself.
Yeah.
So yes, Tenet was finally released in video form. So it wasn't like Wonder Woman, where it was same day release, same day release, but like it wasn't a theatrical release at home. It was released in theaters back in September and actually came home. So it was a nice, reasonable $6.99 rental. And I've talked to a few people, and me and you have not even really talked about this. Like, how did you? I mean, obviously, without giving out spoilers. Whatever. Yeah. Who's listening to this, anyways? I mean, what did
I feel
you
like
think?
80% of the people. 80% of the people that listen to this probably have seen it. The other 20% probably don't care. That's
exactly. And there's one in particular who probably will explicitly not want to see it because it's directed by Chris Nolan.
Yes, that's right. Greatest director of Dark Knight movies ever.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess first thing, I was sad that I did not see this in theaters because I feel like, I mean, again, the greatest the greatest trailer and almost overshadowed the movie we were seing, right?
Yeah, totally.
Right. I think that's a high bar, right? Because you're seeing it on the huge and those IMAX sequences, right? They just don't have the same effect, right? If you're not watching it on like a gigantic screen. Yeah. So I wonder, I'll give my take on the movie, but I wonder how much of it is also how much of a different review I would have given if I saw it in a theater, right?
Could you imagine if that's the reason Chris Nolan was pressing so hard to get people in theater? Because he's like, you know what, I got a mediocre movie, but if you see it in IMAX, it's going to be really good.
I mean, there's probably some movies that are like that are borderline, and then you see it on in a theater, and it's like, oh, that's good. So I mean, I know there's a lot of mixed. I've talked to a few people, and it seems like there's some mixed feelings about it. I overall liked it. I think it was. I will say it's pretty much what I expected.
Yeah.
I wasn't, there wasn't anything it had everything that the trailer kind of promised, right?
Yeah.
But I will say, I think there's nothing that was I didn't that blew me away, because I think the trailer, and I mean, it's unfair because I feel like that's the risk with seeing, it wasn't even a trailer, right? It was literally the first 5 minutes
the opening,
of the movie.
Exactly, the opening of the movie. Yeah.
That's always a risk with that because it's sort of okay, well, that's a really high bar, and then you pretty much know what the movie is going to be, and then whenever you watch it, obviously the trailer didn't tell the story and everything, but I don't know how you felt, but I think nothing was surprising. I thought it was really well done. Definitely, Inception was the closest in terms of style and kind of what it reminded me the most of. I think I would place Inception above it. Like I think the story and kind of the kind of like not revealing everything up front.
Yep.
I think Inception did a better kind of job at that. But I mean, the action and the like again, the production value is crazy on this thing, right? So
Yeah, I mean, it's weird
yeah.
because I definitely like. I will say that I really like the movie, but I do question. Like, I question my own opinion. One, because so many people are like, this movie was not good. So I that has me question my own opinion sometimes. That's why it's never great to go see movies with other people because like their opinions can sway your opinion sometimes.
Yep.
But I will say it made me question how much I'm forgiving of the movie because it's Christopher Nolan. Like, I wonder if I saw this movie and it wasn't Christopher Nolan, what my thoughts would be, and like because I kept thinking to myself in the movie, I was like, wow, this is like super disciplined filmmaking. That's what I kept telling myself, and what I meant by that was like, so so again, it's hard to talk about this without giving too much away. So if you haven't seen the movie and you want to see the
Skip
movie,
ahead.
yeah, skip this whole episode, maybe this whole season. But like I like like I was very surprised, like like near the beginning when the main guy, I don't even know his character's name. The
He
main
didn't have
guy,
a-
he didn't
they
have a
never
name,
said
right?
a name,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. His character's name was literally like Guy or Man or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Denzel Washington's son.
Protagonist. I think protagonist. actually was
Protagonist.
the-
That's literally what it was. Yeah. Denzel Washington's son. Little tidbit from Brody. So he when he met with the scientist and the scientist was explaining, time inversion, I was like, whoa, that was like a really quick conversation, and that's the only kind of only kind of explanation
Yeah.
that we get of what's happening. That's it. And that's we get nothing else basically. And I'm like, that's really, again, because it's Christopher Nolan, the term I was using in my head was discipline. It's like he avoided trying to really over explain it and trying to build to a big moment where the protagonist like realizes that this is happening. It was literally just like, here's what's happening, here's what we got to do. Okay, next scene, right? But I wonder if it wasn't Christopher Nolan, if I'd be saying, this is really terrible directing and really terrible storytelling. Like, you should explain some of that stuff, right? And that's where my opinion of the movie, I think, like, falters. But I'll say, not falters, where it sways. And I'll say, but that sways it for me from being like a really awesome movie to still a really good movie. Because like, ultimately, that stuff aside, I still really enjoyed it. I thought the concept was really clever, like very Christopher Nolan clever. I thought it was super engaging, although at times a little bit confusing. Like the conversations were a little bit hard to follow at times. Like, I found sometimes like the main plot, like time inversion aside, was a little bit complicated. Like with the husband and the wife, like that stuff I had trouble following sometimes. And like, but overall, I felt like it was a really good feeling, and I enjoyed the fact that I want to kind of keep rewatching it and want to figure it out more, right? Like I kind of want to rewatch it and dissect it a little more, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, it's so the way I looked at it is again, like, yes, there's a lot of it's a very Christopher Nolan movie. I don't know what your thoughts are. I think he's executed better in other movies, and I think like the one thing that if I do have one criticism of this is I think he left too much off screen happening off screen, because I think I think what really works well in like movies like Inception and things like that is he doesn't explain, which is the brilliance of it, right? It's sort of like not explaining what's going on, and so it's treating the audience with intelligence, because you have to figure out yourself. But I felt that compared to Inception, maybe some of his other movies, there was more left off screen in this movie, and I think some of that maybe is like it was very fast, right? Like one moment he's like somewhere, and then another moment he's like in another part of the world. Very quick. So it didn't feel. It's one of those things where like even if you rewatched it, you wouldn't really necessarily understand it again anymore, because a lot of stuff happened off screen. Whereas I recall watching, like Inception again, and everything, like you can kind of pick up stuff. It happened very subtly, but things happened on screen.
Yeah, totally.
So I think
And
that's
I
the
feel
only
like,
thing is like I think he's done better, but it's still a really good
yes.
movie.
Well, you know, you're totally right about that. Like, I find in the same things about his like less cerebral movies, like even like Batman Begins, Dark Knight, those things. Like I remember Dark Knight Rises, that whole intro scene with like the plane and Bane. Like I watched that movie so many times, and the beginning I just didn't pay attention to it. I was just more in awe of like, oh my god, they're like hanging a plane and he's jumping and this is amazing. But like after a while, I'm like, okay, I realized, oh, that actually has something to do with the plot. Like I mean, it's a
Yeah.
small, not a super again hard to explain thing, but I just never paid attention to it, and that's what's nice about it. You know, it's weird with Christopher Nolan too because I feel like it's weird. Like I actually at one point thought, oh, you know what? I might like Tenet better than like any of his other movies. But
Well,
it's weird because I was like, I almost feel I like the way his movies are progressing in the sense that I like that his movies feel a little bit, I don't know, this is kind of pretentious to say, but they almost feel like less polished. Like Inception feels very polished and very blockbustery, whereas Inception almost feels like an indie movie.
yeah.
Right? Sorry, what did I
Yeah.
say? Inception? Sorry, Tenet. Tenet feels like an indie movie, and I don't know why, but in my head, I'm almost like I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's less polished. But if I think about analyzing it, you're right. I think like this fast paced go go go. I don't think I've seen that executed better than Batman Begins. Like Batman Begins was just like such like I always describe Batman Begins as a 2-hour trailer. It was just like so fast, things just kept happening, the music kept going, and then it just stopped, and then the movie was done, and that worked really really well to the point where I actually at times think that Batman Begins is better than Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. I actually think it might be the best of the three, but because like this really quick storytelling, he was able to stitch it together really well and it worked really well. Maybe Tenet it didn't work that well. Like he tried to do these fast like, oh, here's a little bit of story next. Here's a little bit of story next. Here's a little bit of story next. But maybe like it just didn't fit together. I don't know. But whatever it is, I ultimately think in the end, I think I really enjoyed and liked Tenet. But there are definitely people's opinions that have me questioning my own opinion of the movie.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that was polarizing, and then, again, I haven't, I don't actually know like specifically what some of the main criticisms are because I don't know, it's weird. Like I watched it, I'm like I can see how some people maybe didn't think this was a great movie,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know what like I watched it, I'm like I don't understand what is so polarizing here that people would be like this is the worst movie ever.
Yes. Well, I think it's against the background of a lot of hype, right? And I think generally hype
Yeah.
kind of invites criticism, right? It's like if the
Right.
movie wasn't hyped up that much, like I bet you if this was Christopher Nolan's first movie and no one really knew him, people would like, you know what? It almost feels like Looper or something,
Right.
you know? Like, Ryan Johnson wasn't super well known when Looper came out. I don't think I'd even heard of him before Looper came out. And when Looper came out, I was, oh, this is like this cool new director, like kind of indie movie, right? And I feel like Tenet's a little bit like that. It's like almost like this like small indie movie by this kind of unknown director, even though he's like one of the biggest directors in the world now, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, Tenet's out for rent right now. Go check it out. Leave your comments below or something like that. Do whatever. On that note, though, I have a bit of news. So we talked about that Tenet wasn't one of these releases, but we mentioned Wonder Woman was. Wonder Woman was a actual like the first time release. It was released to home, like not in the theaters, right? And we talked about other movies that did this. Mulan did this, and Soul did this. Have you seen? So I just saw it yesterday, but it might have come out a little while ago. Have you seen this big HBO Max Warner Brothers trailer that just came out?
No, I think you're talking about like it's not one particular movie, right? You're talking about a trailer for
it's like
all
this,
their.
it's kind of like their whole roster, or not their whole roster, but a big
I mean, a lot of
roster
the
things.
services have been doing this over the last little while, right? Like Netflix had a huge one,
Right.
Before that, Disney like had a massive like announcement event.
Yeah.
Basically,
So-
the year ahead or something, or the next few years ahead.
Yeah. I mean, that was like a investors call, but they had their like their big Disney rollout or whatever. This was like a short 2-minute like promo, almost like an ad for HBO Max. And what it was advertising is, I guess in 2021, I don't know if this is a wide sweeping decision, but it's at least a lot of their major movies. They're saying like the ad is like for the first time ever, the movies will be released in theaters and on HBO Max on the
Right.
same day. So they've announced basically, I guess in 2021 with COVID and everything that's happening, that all these Warner Brothers movies are going to be same day release HBO Max and in the theaters. Now in Canada, I don't know what that means for us because again, there's a little bit of I'm still confused as to whether our Crave HBO subscription includes HBO Max. I don't know what the licensing there is. But the exciting thing about it, this trailer, is that they just dropped like so many things into this trailer. So like a couple of days before that, there was the big Godzilla versus King Kong trailer that dropped. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, so Godzilla versus Kong, which actually looks pretty interesting. I gotta say. I mean, I liked, I kind of liked the Godzilla that was released a little while back, and then I didn't see the second
who's the director?
one. That
You're talking about the I forget the name of the movie, but you're talking about the last Hollywood one, right? Like
the one that's in the same series as. So this one starred Aaron Taylor Johnson, the Kick-Ass guy.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the director was. And then there was a sequel to that, right? There was Godzilla King of Monsters, with what's her name from Stranger Things?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
And this one I believe is in the same world as that because I believe Millie Bobby Brown is in this one as well. But it looks pretty
along
nice.
with I mean, there's a series, there's a whole like kind of series, right? Because like Kong, like the previous Kong movie, I'm assuming this is all the same universe.
Yes,
right? The same.
I believe so. Yeah, it's kind of like I think that Aaron Taylor, whatever his name is, that was like the kind of like the reboot, and then now this is like a series. So that came out and that looked pretty cool. They're kind of squeezed into this trailer of a bunch is the new Suicide Squad. So last one apparently terrible. Breton said it's like the worst movie she's ever watched. It's just really
it wasn't
awful. Yeah, did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the bar. The problem is it also came out basically right in the middle of like the peak of the last MCU phase.
Yeah.
Right, and I feel like the bar is so high that if you're watching Avengers or whatever alongside that, it's like it's probably not a great. It's probably an okay movie to begin with, and then you watch it alongside the Marvel stuff, and it's like this is terrible. Like this
terrible, right? Yeah.
I remember watching DC's kind of like issue though, right? Like it again. I don't I don't think they're necessarily bad because a lot of bad movies out there. Like even like I thought the last Wonder Woman was pretty good. I haven't watched the current one. And some of the what's it called, Justice League movies, right?
I didn't see Justice League, but I mean, I watched Batman vs Superman, and that was bad. Oh, I mean, it wasn't like when I say bad, I just mean it's boring. Like they weren't. I mean, I watched it on a plane, granted, but I just found it really boring. And I mean, I think the problem is not really DC; it's just Zack Snyder, basically, right? It's just any like, which is weird because like I have to admit, I actually liked Zack Snyder back in the day. I liked 300, I liked Watchmen, right?
Yep.
But yeah, apparently all of his DC stuff is just terrible.
Yeah, no, it's not great.
But the new one, this trailer, and the new one's directed by Peter Gunn, the Guardians of the Galaxy guy. So that has some promise. So that was in there. The new Mortal Kombat was in there, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. Who knows if that'll be good or bad? I mean, the original. I mean, as a kid, the original was amazing, but does not hold up great over time. There is a new kind of, I guess, kind of not true to life, based on a real story. The story of the Williams sisters, like Serena Williams and Venus Williams. And so the dad is played by Will Smith, so it's kind of like about them growing up, and I think I've heard that their dad was a really big influence on them and how they came to be. So that's really cool. There's a new Space Jam. With
really?
Yes, with oh, this is gonna be really terrible. What is his name? Who is it? It's oh my god, who is the new? Anyways, some famous basketball player.
like current basketball player. Is that what you're like LeBron James or Stephen Curry or
LeBron
Dwayne
James
Wade?
LeBron James sounds right. That's going to be really terrible though. Come on. Okay. So it's called The New Legacy. LeBron James. It is LeBron
Yeah,
James.
I feel like it's you have to pick one of the like whoever's the top now, right? Because
Yes. And yeah, yeah. So LeBron James is there. And then so again, all these movies flash. There's a new Hugh Jackman movie coming out. Anyways, within 2 minutes, just all these movies and things coming out. And then what's pretty cool is that at the very end, they kind of flash through all the movies, right? It's like Space Jam, Matrix, or not Matrix, Mortal Kombat, all that stuff like that. And then at the very end, I just gave away the secret. At the very end, the last thing they flash up is the Matrix.
So this is happening. Like I think I saw something about it. I wasn't quite sure if it was true or not.
So a couple months ago, I know definitely like Keanu Reeves and I believe Carrie-Anne Moss signed to do it, like Matrix 4. And I believe the Wachowski sisters are also signed on to direct it, which would be amazing.
Yeah.
And the only thing, and Breton brought this up, I was like, all right, yeah. Like, what is it going to be? Because aren't like
I know.
Aren't Neo and Trinity dead? Like, spoiler alert, but like, yeah, aren't they dead? Like, I don't know what the story.
It's also one of those things. Like, it sounds cool, but then you really think about it, and it's just sort of like, you go back to the last two movies, and you're like, nah, maybe I don't really want to see like another one because I feel like all the things you think back on about how awesome it is, it's like stems back to the first movie.
Yeah, it's true.
If I think too much about the second and third movie, I enjoy watching it. It was cool, but I don't know if I want to watch another one of those. Like, So I don't know what it's going to be about, but yeah.
I mean, I have faith in the Wachowskis, but you're right though, because they also directed the second and third one, and those are only okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, and actually, the kind of crappy part too about the way they put the Matrix in this trailer. Like, first of all, there's no shots of it. Every other movie, basically, they had shots and they showed the title, but they just kind of put the Matrix at the end.
Right.
And like, okay, so one of my pet peeves in life, and I do not hold this against people because I know it's beyond their control. It's still a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. But I don't know if you you obviously go to work and you see presentations and PowerPoint presentations and keynotes and all this stuff like that. And you know when people go and they include logos, like let's say there's like let's say there's a slide and you want to show, oh, here's all our current customers for January 2021 or whatever.
Right.
And it'd be a slide of like a bunch of logos of customers. And what it clearly is like they grabbed logos from the internet and put them on the slide. And these logos are obviously not optimized for their presentation because they'll be like a white background and it's like a square cut out and all that stuff. And it just doesn't look nice. And again, I understand that people who are putting these presentations together don't necessarily have graphic design skills to rejig it, but it just looks awful. It looks really bad.
Yeah, and then don't they own these? Like, don't they own the logos?
Yeah. So this is the thing. Like it doesn't look that bad. It's not like there's like a white background around the Matrix logo and it's on like a black background. It's just a full white background, and but it almost looks like that, and I'm like, oh man, this looks a little cheap at the end here.
Can't even afford proper graphic design these days.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, HBO Max and somehow in Canada, all these things are coming out to same day theater as the thing. We're gonna take a short break, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the ETC Podcast, episode 55, season 7 premiere. That's right, we're 7 seasons strong, lucky number 7, episode 1. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to email us at podcast.etc@gmail.com. You can also visit our official website, anchor.fm/the-etc-podcast. Also follow us on Twitter and look at our YouTube channel. You can see a video version, and you can see how long me and Aaron's hair has gotten. So long, in fact, that Aaron had to put it back under his hat. Aaron, what is on your noggin?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm trying to decide because I feel like there's a few things to talk about. But let's start with the thing that's actually maybe current. It's news, because something else I want to talk about that isn't news per se, but hasn't stopped me in the past.
We're on like the hot button pulse here. Our episode's
Yeah.
going to be released tonight, and we're going to be right on the money.
Exactly. So, Tesla has finally updated their Model S. I don't know if you.
This is so funny. This is
seen
so
this?
funny because I legitimately wanted to talk about this if you weren't gonna like. I was gonna like tack it on at the end and talk about this. This is amazing.
I mean, this could this could be a discussion. You know,
Yes.
you can talk about it. As you know, Tesla, and it's been a while. So the Model S, I don't know when it was released, but it's been a while now. It probably maybe 10 years, maybe not quite 10 years, but
Was it their second model that they released after the X?
after
Oh, sorry,
no,
the
it was the
Roadster,
first
the
one after
Roadster.
the Roadster. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
And then the X came after that. Yeah. So they haven't really a lot of car manufacturers, pretty much every 4 years a completely new redesign, right? Like they
Right.
redesign everything. Tesla's a bit different. One, because they are obviously until recently a very small company, and so it's not like they could just churn out like they've been making the same car for 20 years, right? The Model S did not exist 10 years ago. But also their whole model of updating software continuously, right? Where the car would just get new features through a software update. I think those reasons combined, there hasn't really been a big update to the Model S.
Well,
there's
and
been some changes.
You were the one who also told me that they don't really have model years, right? They kind of just have rolling updates where it's like it just depends when
Exactly.
you bought the car, right? Yeah.
It's basically what the iPhone has become, right? Or the MacBook, I think is probably the better kind of
Exactly.
example. But so they've done a minor cosmetic update a few years back, but other than that, pretty much they haven't updated anything. So I think just yesterday they announced new Model S, pretty big updates, both the interior and exterior, and also some pretty significant to the drivetrain and the batteries and everything. Pretty significant updates. I think there's some pretty crazy stuff. I think probably mentioned off the bat. I mean, they've got rid of the performance models with ludicrous mode, and they've gone beyond that now.
Be sure to check out our video on KCB's
Exact-
reaction to the ludicrous mode.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how I can't imagine this, but I mean that was already insane or ludicrous, whatever.
Yep.
This is now they've gone a step up, which I don't know what that's going to feel like.
Oh,
Yeah.
they've gotten rid of ludicrous mode because they have a new mode that's even crazier.
Exactly. So it's
And I'm
called
assuming-
Plaid.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, is this not crazier than Plaid, or they're including Plaid in this?
Yeah, this is Plaid is one step above. Whatever they had
'Cause
before.
we've talked about Plaid before, so they're now just including Plaid in the S.
Yeah, this is the first time.
Yeah.
I think they announced it previously, but this is the first time that it's, I guess, in a vehicle you can buy from them. But yeah, it's insane. So the Plaid version, there's two levels actually. There's Plaid and then Plaid Plus. Both come with 3 electric motors instead of just 2 in the vehicle. I think the normal Plaid is something like 1,020 horsepower. Actually, they haven't released the full stats or the specs for the Plaid Plus. So we only know what it is for the Plaid model, and then the Plus will be crazier than that, basically. But yeah, 1,080 horsepower for the Plaid model. It'll do 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds.
Oh my god! Because the Roadster 2.0 was 1.8 seconds, I think, right?
Yeah, so this is about there. It's pretty
In
close.
a way bigger car.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? This is still, I think, there's a lot of crazy cars out nowadays, right? All the McLarens out there, and I'm sure the new 911 Turbo. But again, it's not a cheap vehicle by any means, but it's a full size sedan, right?
Yeah.
4 doors, pretty comfortable. But yeah, 1,080 horsepower. It'll do 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. They're saying it's the quickest production car to 60. But just like ridiculous stats. So the Plaid Plus will be even one step above that. Some pretty neat interior changes too, though. So there's a new steering wheel, which is really interesting.
This is the main
there's no
thing. Yeah.
stocks. Yeah, like and I don't know if this is if this is the final version or whatnot, but yeah, basically, a lot of people are familiar with you have your turn signal stock, and then there's usually another one for your wipers and things like that. They've gotten rid of that, and it's a combination of, I guess, some sort of like haptic touch buttons on the steering wheel itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but a lot of it is actually just going to be intelligent. And so I think what they're trying to do is, previously they had a stock that would basically you can select between park, drive, reverse, right? But now what they're going to do, I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but as soon as you get in, based off where you are and what's around the car, as soon as you put your foot on the brake pedal, it'll know whether you want to go into like forward or reverse. So
Oh my God.
you don't even have to like tell it, right? And there's going to be some override, like there's like that touch control, but it's just
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
know
yeah.
based off where you are and what's around the car, which is,
Don't
if you think about it, a really simple concept, but it's just crazy, right? Like,
don't get me wrong. Like I heavily believe in this, and I think it's the way of the future, and I think this is the way to go. I'm just very curious about these initial stages.
I know, yeah, it's
When-
like, how is it going to work, right? And
when
how do you
when
trust
this
it?
thing is, yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely going to be a transitionary phase where the stuff just doesn't quite work the way they want it. But yeah, that's pretty interesting actually, and it's interesting. Like, I mean, I was curious even like the only thing I have written down is the steering wheel, because that was the headline that I
Yep.
read. And I'm curious, like, because again, for those who don't, like who are trying to figure this out in their head, I mean, it almost looks like almost like a what do you call it? Like a plane controller.
An airplane,
you're-
like
when you're flying a
yeah,
plane.
wheel, yeah, it's really,
Yeah,
and so like I don't know how it's going to work in practice. And again, I think a big reason they're doing this is because the hope, and you can already do it. Like they already have autopilot, which especially on the highway, you can just turn it on and it does its thing. I think less and less, people are going to have to interact with the physical controls, right? And
Yes,
so, how do you design a steering wheel for where most of the time you're not driving? And so this is kind of their take on it, but it's going to be interesting to see how it works in practice. Like even the turn signals, apparently, they're trying to use AI for that. So
Okay.
it's just going to know that you're going to change lanes somehow, and then it's going to activate the blinker.
Well, I mean, to be honest, there's like probably a good 10-20% of the time when I should be signaling and I don't anyway. So like, like if they could figure that out for
If it just
me,
did it for you,
it's probably
right?
yeah, it's probably better anyway.
Yeah. So the steering wheel is super interesting. Other kind of things that they've updated in it. All the screens, and so the center screen now is a horizontal screen similar to the Model 3 and the Model Y. It's a little bigger. Yeah.
Well, based on what I saw, did they do the same thing that they did with the 3? Like, is your kind of dash gone now? Is it just a center screen now, or do they still have a dash kind of screen?
They still have the screen that has like your speed and other things in front of
Oh,
you.
okay,
So it's still
okay.
two screens in the front.
Right.
And the center screen is just horizontal instead.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a bigger screen now. I think it's like 17 inches, like crazy resolution. There's also a screen at the back too. So there's a rear screen now for the passengers to interact with.
That's cool.
And the crazy thing is, it's like it basically has a gaming computer built in. And so like the existing Teslas, you can already play games,
Yeah.
some pretty good games on there. But I guess the new Model S has like a super upgraded gaming computer built in, and they said it can like do 10 teraflops, whatever that means. But apparently it's like pretty close to like a PlayStation 5, like in terms of processing power.
That's crazy.
And so like I don't know.
But
if this
is that
true.
independent? Is that independent? Like, does that same kind of processor run everything, or is it just for the gaming piece?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. They haven't really said. I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of runs everything, right? And so basically, they need a really powerful computer anyways to do like autopilot and things like that. But yeah, like Elon Musk is saying, there's some pretty crazy games that they're going to want to release, like basically like like PlayStation 5 games in your Tesla, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, those like some pretty big updates. I think I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a bunch of changes they've kind of done, but yeah, the fact that again 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds, like the one that I test drove briefly was already like insanely fast. So this
Do you know
is
what the
like
time? Yeah,
I think that was 2.3.
yeah.
So like I mean that's 1.9. That's almost half a second. That is significantly faster. So yeah, it's yeah, it would be
Is
interesting to see some of the reaction videos from that.
is there a pricing or release date kind of? Is it supposed to be the same price as the current S or?
Yeah, pretty much the same price. So yeah, I mean it's basically overnight gotten a huge upgrade, right? So
Yeah.
I think in Canada, like I mean again these are definitely not economy vehicles, but I think Canada it starts at like 115, I think, and then the
Yeah.
Plaid is 160. Plaid Plus is like 180. But I mean
But
prices have gone down. Like
sorry,
when they
when are they gonna? Sorry, when are they gonna release like the new like body and new wheel? Like when are they gonna release?
you can
that?
order it now. So they basically you can't
Okay.
order the previous one anymore. And
Okay.
again, like very, it's again like the way that Tesla sells vehicles, right? It's basically like a new iPhone coming out where as soon as they launch it, you can't like the website's updated and then you can just order it right away. So I think they're saying deliveries in March or so, March, April. I think
Right.
is when it's coming, but yeah, those changes, and I think the Model X they updated as well. Some similar changes as well to Model X. Like they don't have that Plaid Plus version, but the interior and the steering wheel and everything, I think they're updating the Model X as well. So
So do you think like
yeah.
I mean do you think at this point like I mean let's say you had your choice any one you want like I mean we've seen some interesting things like the Taycan or whatever that was released from Porsche and that's getting like really good reviews and people are really liking how crazy that car is and the fact that it's a Porsche obviously there's a lot of like probably driving dynamics that are great
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Not to mention the luxury of like their crazy screens that they have in that car and its overall design. The Mustang Mach E is getting a lot of attention. It's a interesting looking car. I think it's a nice looking car. I don't know if you've seen the interior of it. It's got this cool like physical volume dial in the middle of a screen. It's got some like kind of new age
Yep.
stuff like that. Do you think like at this point, like if you were in the market for a new car and you could have any one, do you think you would still go Tesla? Do you think Tesla still has the edge over? Because these other companies are starting to make inroads a little bit, right? Like the Mach-E's
Yeah,
getting a lot of
definitely.
attention. Taycan for sure got a lot of attention. BMW just released like their new the Next i3 or something like that. I can't remember what
Yep.
it's called. It's like their X3 like i version or whatever. And they're starting to make inroads. But do you think Tesla still ultimately was way still like would that still be your choice? I mean, I have to imagine that the Taycan would be interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's gotten to the point where if your only criteria is you just want an electric vehicle, the answer is not simply Tesla anymore, right? If that's your only criteria, but again, that's the same question you would ask if you're just buying a car in general, right? There's a lot of reasons that you choose one company over another, right? Even though they all make
Yeah,
vehicles,
yeah.
right? Each of them has their kind of own approach, but it's gotten to the point now where a few years ago, yeah, if you wanted an electric vehicle, I don't know why you'd buy anything other than Tesla a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
But now that's not the case. There's enough choice and variety emerging. But that said, again, I think this update, what it proves is that Tesla is continuing to basically lean into the not just like making an electric vehicle, but really their bet on that future of okay, it's about autonomy, right? Intelligence and the vehicle. Like, yes, it's got has to be a good vehicle. It has to be great to drive and a great kind of thing to be in. But again, like Porsche's not putting a PlayStation 5 in their
Yeah,
vehicles.
yeah.
It's a completely different like mindset,
Like different
right?
approach and
Yeah. So
philosophy.
so I
like,
think it's smart because it's like some people really want one, right? And I think at the end of the day, I think most of the other manufacturers, their electric vehicles are very familiar to what they've made before, right? Which is a good thing if that's what you want, right? If you want a Porsche, then a Taycan is amazing because that's what you're getting, right? You're getting a Porsche, right? So all the reasons you would normally like a Porsche before, you will like a Taycan for that, right?
yeah.
So I think I think Tesla's still unique, and I don't know what you want to call this, but again, they're still the only ones that are giving like real feature updates, right? Like over the
Yeah.
air, where like
Yeah.
complete pieces of functionality change. They're the only ones really embracing autonomous driving. Like, and the fact their steering wheel doesn't let you like do much, right? I think is a sign of that. And then all the stuff from like the entertainment, to the stuff like inside the vehicle that has nothing to do with driving, right? Like it's like all additive to that. And then the drivetrain, like they're still king of the hill for like again the crazy power and
Yeah.
range too, right? Like I don't know if this is going to be true, but the Plaid Plus is going to be they're claiming 800 plus kilometers on one charge.
Wow.
There's like
crazy.
very few gasoline cars that can go 800 plus kilometers.
Yeah,
right,
seriously.
on a tank of gas.
Yeah,
So,
I think my car estimates at like 700 or so kilometers. That's crazy.
yeah. So I mean that again, no one else is doing that. So I think there's still, if you just want, the longest range electric vehicle, there's still the way to go. But you're right. Ford. If you like Fords, like the Mach E will probably be great, right? If you like Porsches, the Taycan's amazing. All these manufacturers coming out with electric vehicles. Again, it's just getting started, right? Like if you think about how many vehicles are out there, non-electric vehicles, the variety and the choice. This stuff is just kind of getting started, but yeah, that's Tesla still is like kind of really leaning into their kind of mentality and their kind of approach.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this is no longer the case, but it was kind of like early days of Apple when their approach to computing was to build like obviously powerful machines, but their approach was also to make them beautiful and aesthetically pleasing and a real strong emphasis on industrial design. Whereas everybody else was kind of focusing purely on like kind of power and like, just like these are work machines or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, a lot of people have followed suit. Dell and Samsung, they're all making like gorgeous things or whatever. And I'm not saying Tesla is about gorgeous design, but it's all about like they're a different approach, right? Like you've always said, right? They're more a software company, and their approach to what they're building is not really about building, the best today's car. They are putting their bets on, we are designing the future of driving, which is autonomous and like the steering wheel that came out. You can almost like picture like in movies like in iRobot when they're like start driving and then the steering wheel kind of splits and kind of goes back into the dash. Sit back. Like you can almost picture that steering wheel doing that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, check out the new Tesla Model S. It's only
you're in the market for the world's fastest production vehicle, $180,000 Canadian.
180,000 is the top end. So we're talking like 911 turbo kind of territory, right?
In the grand scheme of things, at that level of speed, it's a pretty good buy because actually, obviously, it's the fastest, but to even come close, right? Like Turbo S is what 200 something, right? Like 240, 250. So, not cheap, but I guess in that realm, it's maybe considered a deal.
So good buying advice from the ETC podcast. The budget deal of the century, Tesla Model S Plaid Plus model for sure. Are they calling the Plaid Plus model Plaid Plus, or is it going to be like the the P500X? Which
whenever you go to the it's hilarious how you can buy a $180,000 car just like on a few clicks. But it's actually literally called Plaid Plus. That's the option you can select.
Okay.
And
Cool. All right, we're coming to a close here on episode 55 of the ETC podcast. Just before we go, 2 bits of news. The Courier starring Benedict Cumberbatch. Trailer just dropped for that. It is a interesting spy thriller about, I believe, this British citizen who was spying for the Russians, I believe, something like that. Very
like true story kind of thing, like based off a true story.
True story. It seems very Benedict Cumberbatchy. So definitely check that out. And then the other thing I was going to mention is I don't know what I was going to mention actually. But what's interesting is as unprepared as I was for the opening of this episode, it turns out I actually had an opening ready to go. I just didn't see it in my notes. So I will save that for the next episode of the ETC podcast. All right. If you have any questions, comments, and concerns, be sure to email us at podcast.etc@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at the ETC podcast. Go to our website, anchor.fm/the-etc-podcast. You can even leave us a voicemail. And be sure to visit our YouTube channel and subscribe to it and leave some comments, like some videos. It definitely helps. It is, it's so funny. Right there. I was about to say, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, I was about to repeat the whole thing. Yeah, exactly. Just keep it going. But we are happy to be back in season 7. Thanks, Deanna, for the nudge for getting back into it. We will get you your environmental episode. That was a little bit ominous how I paused.
So aggressive. Like,
yeah, we will get you. We're coming to your house. We know where you live. No. We will get you your environmental episode is what I meant to say. Lots of really good stuff to talk about in 2021, I'm sure. It is seeming like there is light at the end of the tunnel, that maybe sometime in 2022, me and Aaron might be in the same room recording it. Although this is a little bit more convenient. We don't even have to drive to each other's houses.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Working all right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we'll be able
all
to,
right.
in 2022, we'll see Tenet in an IMAX theater.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Don't forget to keep your eyes peeled for Space Jam: A New Legacy starring LeBron James. That is going to be the movie of 2021. All right, but that's it for now, guys. ETC podcast hosted on anchor.fm, distributed to all your favorite platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. Spread the word. Be sure to subscribe to everything that we do and listen to everything that we do. Season 7 surprise episode dropping tonight. But if you're listening to this, then you obviously know that already. So that is it for episode 55, 50 plus 5, and 60 minus 5. That's right. The operand is the same on both situations for this wonderful January 28th, 2021. First episode of 2021.
Got that right.
All right. Yes, exactly. That's it. My name is Casey Lee. And sitting across the city from me, as always, is
Aaron Zenekar.
We'll see you guys next week.
Plaid Plus. Go get it.